and we played 36. 36 was right along about the first of the beginning of the when Mr. Daniel and Mr. J.S. Vander was on the Student Activities Committee in Jackson, was when they formed the Little 10. The Little 10 schools then to start with was as following: Starkville, West Point, Oklahoma, Aberdeen, Amory, Houston, Corinth, Pontotoc, New Albany, and Kossuth. Kossuth was an old boys' school way back there, boarding school, and that had a lot of players there. Then come on down to 1936, 37. Coach Britt and Coach Tudor and Coach Moore came in here, and I can't give you the details on each one of them, but anyway, those three now. But start on this. And every time we went to a ball game in 1935, people carried us in cars. We didn't have school buses. Mr. S.J. Bell, Mr. Kenneth Bell's daddy, Mr. Patterson, Mr. Work, Mr. Brother Kirkland, Mr. Owen, and Mr. Houston came in here, and they all carried us in cars. Well, when we get to the ball court, and just before we went on the field every time for the kickoff, we'd have Brother Kirkland, Brother Golden, Brother N.J. Golden, Brother R. Scott, and Brother Ransom would be in the huddle with us. They never, all the 4 years that I played in high school, those four were always in all 4 of the 4 years that I played in high school, from 1936 through the fall of 1939. Well, then 1936, 37, Coach Britt and Coach Tudor coached together. 1937, 38, Coach Tudor and Coach Moore took over. 1938, 39, Tudor stayed, Moore left us. 1939, 40 when I left, graduated in spring of 1939 and went to Utah State University. At that particular time, we had gotten where we were going in school buses. We had 3 or 4 of the fathers of the students would go along, and they'd buy us hamburgers after the every game where we won or lost. They'd buy us hamburgers and put us back on the bus. Well, it went on down to the last game that we played. We played all 10 of these teams from 1936 through about way on down to in the 70s and 80s when they did away with a Little 10, whatever time that was. But when they formed a Little 10, Mr. J.S. Vanderver and Mr. W.P. Daniel were on the Student Activities Committee, and I stayed with Miss Daniel while Mr. Daniel was gone. John had graduated there, was out doing something, but anyway, I'd come down there and stay with her. Anyway, when 1939 and 40, we went through that whole season. We beat Oklahoma, we beat Kossuth, and we beat Holly Springs. And that was the only 3 games we won when I was a senior in 1939. We beat Holly Springs 7-0. John Gray scored the touchdown, and I scored the extra point. It was snowing. Mr. Daniel came around to us and said, "Now, boys, don't talk to any of these junior college coaches because you're not supposed to do that." Well, we went down to the old bus stop. They bought us all a hamburger. Mr. Rab Rogers, who was an All-American guard over at Ole Miss, came by and told Robert Patterson and me that we had a place at Delta Junior College, at Moorhead Junior College, if we wanted to come down later on and sign up. Well, I went on and when graduated in 1939 was John Grace and 2 or 3 of the Maxes. I can't remember all the people's on that team. Graduated the next year, and I don't know what their score was, but we'd always hit about 4 or 5. We never did win 6 games in 1 year of that particular year. But then during that whole time, Ivan and Cy Parks was our officials. They were super good, and you didn't talk back to them. They'd throw you out of the game. Anyway, they coached all of. They called all the ball games, all the football games, and all of the basketball games. Well, in 1939, we had 4 or 5 boys that went to 3 or 4 different junior colleges here. One went to the one out of Jackson. One went to the one out of in DeSoto and Tate County. And coming right along now, I ought to tell about James Wesley Busby, but I won't. Anyway, one of the best basketball players ever left Union County. Anyway, when I graduated in the spring of 1939, they had just added on to the old work field, coming back up behind the old band house. Old bands put the bleachers, just about put the old bleachers all the way up to the end of that building. And right at that time, Coach Tudor left us. He had gotten his degree at